Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video we have some more 9.1 patch notes for Chains of Domination that came out for the PTR today. We'll go through these patch notes a little bit, the most interesting things, because there are some very interesting things in here, some good and some bad, especially if you're a Death Knight. First of all, Death Knight, anti-magic zone cooldown increased to 3 minutes, fine, and will now fade when it absorbs a certain amount of damage. Now, this damage is actually given in a string that the Wowhead team data mined or whatever, and this is a huge nerf to it. So now it is like your health times the number of percent versatility you have or something like that. So it ends up being quite a low number overall. And yeah, I think the actual thing is health times 1 plus your versatility. Now I thought it was your versatility number, so let's say you had like 300 versatility, so it would be your health times 300, which is actually quite a big amount, but that's not the case. So it's actually your health times the percent number that you have, I guess. That's what people said during testing. If that's the case, it's quite low. I believe that's the case. So definitely got nerfed into the ground. Everyone's joking that Max killed Anti-Magic Zone, but the truth is, I mean, it needed nerfed, and they just nerfed it into the ground completely. Personally, I'm fine with that because, I think I think either everyone should have a raid cooldown or nobody should. And it is what it is. It sucks for Death Knights, though. I feel bad for you, Death Knights. You felt really cool with that, I'm sure. So next up, we have Monk Mistweaver getting some buffs. Tiger Palm, damage increased by 10%. Blackout Kick damage increased by 10%. Rising Sun Kick damage increased by 10%. Spinning Crane Kick damage increased by 20%. Enveloping Mist mana cost reduced to 5.6 base mana was 6, so just slight mana reduce. Revival rank 2 is now learned at level 56. Revival now procs Gust of Mist on each target healed, but the Revival healing has been reduced by 10%. So quite a big damage buff for Mistweaver monks. A little bit of a mana gain, very minor, but a bit of a mana gain there. And then a Revival healing reduced by 10%. If I'm being completely honest, I don't know what Gust of Mist is, so that could be a buff for example, and then offset by the reduced healing. That's what I assume, just because I don't know what that is, and it would make sense if that is the case. Holy Pally, they just kind of reworked a rune carving power, gives the inflorescence of the Sunwell, gives Holy Light a 30% chance to generate 2 holy power when it consumes infusion of light. So they're just trying to make your heals work better to generate holy power and stuff. Flexion Warlock get a little bit of a nerf on their Withering Bolt conduit that was way overperforming on the PTR. Shadow Bolt deals 10%, or Drain Soul deals 5%. Those are cut in half from their original 20 and 10. More damage per damage over time effect on the target, so that was just a little bit of a nerf that was needed. Destruction Warlocks, Shadow Burn, damage increased by 23%, and now refreshes a charge if the target dies within 5 seconds, so Shadow Burn gets a little buff there. Covenants, Renown, players who have neglected their duties with the Covenant Sanctum and find themselves behind in Renown will now have an increased chance to receive Renown as a reward from all relevant activities. So it's just basically easier to get Renown now. You queue for a random dungeon, you probably are going to get a Renown. You queue for, you win a random battleground, you're probably going to get a Renown. That's basically what that means. World boss, etc. Dungeons and raids. Pusha T in the Hall of Holding in Oribos will now offer a keystone to players who don't have a keystone, as long as they've completed at least one Shadowlands dungeon on Mythic Plus difficulty. So now you don't have, let's say you just skip a week, or you just are out of town, whatever, you don't feel like playing 1 week. Instead of having to run just like a dungeon to get a key, you can actually just go get a key. I'm guessing it's going to be like one lower than the highest you've ever that you completed the last week or something like that you did one, something like that. I didn't try this out yet, but that would kind of be in line with how they normally do things. He also spawns at the end of Mythic Plus dungeons that are completed. This is a cool thing. So this is one of the things that people really like, where you can possibly swap out your keys if you have a key that you really don't want to do, a dungeon you really hate. He spawns at the end of Mythic Plus dungeons that are completed on time. He'll offer a one-time keystone exchange to any player whose current keystone is at or below the level of the dungeon that was recently completed on time. So if you complete a plus 20, and your friend's plus 20 key, and you have a plus 20 key on a dungeon that your group is really bad at, or you just really hate, you'll be able to exchange it for a different dungeon at the end. I don't know if it's a choice. It says exchange. It makes me feel like it's a choice, but it could be random. Keystones that are higher level than the dungeon that was recently completed in time cannot be traded, including the keystone that was used to start the run. So you can't change your own keystone when you time it and upgrade it. But this is overall a really good change. It's definitely a change in the right direction. This mostly affects higher people, but even people that run 15s, there's some dungeons that they hate to run, and so it could be good, to be able to just switch it off and not have to worry about it. Next thing is another. It's a cool system. I don't know if the change is necessarily cool or the thing behind it is cool, but the second part of this is cool actually. Items and rewards. Shards of Domination. Select gear that is dropped in the Sanctum Domination can be enhanced with Shards of Domination, which can be found from defeating bosses in the Sanctum of Domination. So these are the gems that people have talked about a lot with sockets into certain pieces of gear. You can have 5 total sockets at once, and so basically you'll want probably one of each damage in most cases, right? So you have all the damage possible, and then you have whatever the best set bonus is for you. So there's like blood. I can't even remember what the 3 types of them are, but there's 3 types of gems. I think one of them is blood. And if you have 3 of one type, so you wouldn't want to do 2, 2, and 1, right? You'd want to do 3, 1, and 1. So that way you get a set bonus as well. And so that's what, most people are probably going to do. The damage of one, the damage of one, the damage of the other one, and then 2 more of that one to get the set bonus. Players who are not satisfied with the selection of gear from the Great Vault has provided them can now opt to receive a new currency that will let them choose from a number of alternative rewards, including Anima, Stygia, and Soul Ash. If you decide to go down this path, seek out Kotal next to the Great Vault to choose your reward. So instead of having to choose Stygia, you'll actually have other choices, and that can just be Anima to go into your Sanctum, or you can even do Soul Ash. It's another way to acquire Soul Ash. This is mostly relevant after you are kind of geared up already and your Great Vault's not really offering you anything. But this is also a good change. Right direction is something people have asked for. They listened, they gave it. I know the argument is why not do it sooner, but here it is. I'm not going to complain about it. Player versus player. Just a few changes here. I'm not going to get into them because I don't know much about anybody but my own class's PvP stuff. Rune carving powers. Monk, rogue, shaman, hunter, warlock, and priest now have updated powers. Check out your guides for these, okay, guys? If you're a monk, rogue, shaman, hunter, warlock, or priest, and you don't know anything about these new rune carving powers yet, you want to check out a guide for these, because I'm not going to know much about them. The Maw. New zone, Korthia. There's actually a cool thing here, too. 2 things, actually, that are cool still left in this. New zone, Korthia, visitor dailies. So they've added more dailies again. So there's lots and lots of dailies here. There are lots of different dailies to do. They've also added new rares and treasures to discover in Korthia and Desmatoran. That's another like mini zone thing. And there's new rares added as well. One thing I saw was people were actually getting the conduit upgrades from these rare chests, and maybe they dropped from the rare spawns as well. So you might be able to not only farm conduit upgrades from the Adamant Vault, you might be able to just farm them in Korthia, which would be pretty lucrative, honestly. I'm sure the drop rate will be low, but in theory, you'd be able to just, between Adamant Vaults, if you can, successfully keep reaching the Adamant Vaults and then camping rare spawns or rare chests, you would, in theory, be able to upgrade your conduits pretty quickly. This patch, again, it's a great thing, and yes, they should have had something like this in 9.0 as well, but it's here now, so we can criticize 9.0, but this is good for 9.1. And then finally, Torghast Tower of the Damned. Players that have unlocked layer 9 of Torghast, so as long as you've completed layer 8, will now be able to transfer Soul Ash at a slight loss. So this is the same thing. The difference is, so if you didn't know, you could go into Torghast and buy a package that turns 1500 Soul Ash into 1300 Soul Ash, and you could send that to your alts or whatever, or to your main. But now you do not have to actually go into Torghast to do it. You can also just do it from a vendor in Korthia. So it's just a little bit of convenience, quality of life update. So this is again, let's give them a little bit of credit here. They're actually adding this before 9.1.5 or 9.2. They're like, okay, you're right, we shouldn't have to go into Torghast to buy this, we'll just put the vendor outside. So just some quality of life stuff there, some really good changes. I'm very sorry to Death Knights, I'm very, very sorry, but you're still good DPS, and you're still useful in other ways. You still have Death Grip, you still have that going for you as well that other people don't have. So that's about it for this video. As always, I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel because it helps me out so much. And other than that, everybody have a good one.